You're carrying a box up the driveway of a place you just signed for. A second-hand couch is still in the truck behind you, $1,949 a month, first and last already gone. Across the street, someone's watching from their porch. They see the truck, they see the box, and they don't wave. You tell yourself they're just tired. But here's what nobody says out loud when you move in. The way your neighbors treat you changes at every level of wealth, and it feels personal every single time. The nod you get, the wave you don't, the fence that goes up, the invite that never lands. You think you're being judged as a person. You're being sorted as a price. And the machine doing the sorting was built in 1926, upgraded in 1948, and it's still running on your street tonight. Subscribe if you want to see the exact moment you stop being the one kept out and start being the one keeping others out. Because that flip is coming, and you won't feel it happen. Quick thing before we climb. I put together a free cheat sheet for this whole ladder, every rung and the exact mechanism hiding under it. It's waiting for you in the description and the pinned comment. Go grab it after. Now, let's climb. So start where most people start, renting. The place is fine, $1,949 a month, right at the national middle. You can cover the rent. What you can't cover is the lot. Because in the neighborhood with the school you actually want, the cheapest thing for sale isn't the house, it's the ground it sits on. And that price tag isn't an accident of the market. In most big American cities, more than 75% of the residential land is reserved by law for one thing only, a single detached house. No duplex, no small apartment, nothing you could afford a slice of. And to get behind that wall, you don't just need the monthly payment. You need the down payment. And in a good district that's often more cash up front than you'll save in a decade of doing everything right. A researcher at Yale combed through property records town by town and found something clean and brutal. Every time a town doubles its minimum lot size, home prices jump about 14%, and the households that move in skew richer and whiter. That's not a market picking winners. That's a wall with a permit. The same paycheck that covers your rent here would never cover the mortgage 2 streets over. Not because that house is nicer, but because the law made the land around it scarce on purpose. And here's the part that stings. The neighbor on the porch who wouldn't wave didn't sort you out. The wall did that years before you pulled up in the truck. He's just standing on the paid side of it. This whole system got its blessing in 1926. The Supreme Court looked at a town that had banned apartments to keep the wrong people out and called it a fair use of government power. The ruling compared an apartment building in a house neighborhood to a parasite. That word is really in the decision, written by a Supreme Court justice, still quoted in zoning fights today. So the lawn stays greener 2 doors down, and the porch lights come on for everyone but you. You learn to read the whole street as a verdict on your character. It was never about your character. You just haven't cleared the wall. Yet. Now jump. You bought in. You cleared the wall. You got the keys, and the neighbors finally nod. But the welcome comes with a binder. There's a homeowners association now, and it has opinions on your paint, your fence height, and how long your trash cans can sit at the curb. The dues look small, a median around $135 a month, and climbing well past that in the pricier associations. What you're actually paying for is a rulebook, and that rulebook has a past nobody mentions at closing. Before 1948, neighborhoods kept people out with a clause written straight into the deed, a covenant that spelled out which races could and couldn't buy the home. Then the Supreme Court, in a case called Shelley versus Kraemer, ruled that courts couldn't enforce those clauses anymore. Watch what the machine did next. It didn't break, it swapped the language. The race lines came out, and minimum square footage, minimum lot size, and architectural review boards went in. Same instrument, same job, cleaner words. It stopped sorting by who you are and started sorting by what you can afford, which for a lot of families lands in the exact same spot. And this binder has teeth. Miss a rule and the association can fine you. And if you don't pay the fine, in many states it can put a lien on your home and eventually move to foreclose. People have nearly lost houses over a fence, a flag, a lawn left brown too long. And then there's the school. The reason you stretched for this address is the district. And the district runs on your home's value, because more than 1/3 of every public school dollar in this country comes straight out of local property taxes. Your kids' textbooks, teachers, and gym roof are funded by what the houses on your street are worth. A poorer street means a thinner school budget, and that gap is working exactly as designed. Homes near the top-rated schools cost about $205,000 more than homes near the worst-rated ones. The same building, moved into a better district, costs the price of a second house, and that premium buys nothing but who your kid sits next to in class. So, you didn't just buy a house. You bought into a loop where good schools lift your price, and your price funds the schools, and the whole thing quietly pulls the ladder up behind you. So enjoy the wave while it lasts. You're inside the wall now, which means you finally have something to protect and something to keep other people out of. Skip ahead. Net worth crosses a couple million. The house sits behind a gate. The dues run past $500 a month, and something subtle has flipped. People are warm to you before they know a single thing about you. You got invited onto the architectural review board, which sounds like volunteering and is actually power, because now you're the one reading the applications. You decide whether the new family's renovation fits the look of the street. Last season you voted down a couple who wanted to put a small rental unit over their garage. Not because it was ugly, because it was small, and small is a crack in the wall, and a crack lets in exactly the kind of density that lowers what your own house is worth. You told yourself it was about character and consistency. It was about the number on your last appraisal. That wall that kept you out at the bottom, you're standing on top of it now, holding the clipboard. And you'll defend it, because everything you own is sitting on the other side of it. This isn't a rare corner of the country. Of every new single-family home built in 2024, almost 66% came with a homeowners association attached, baked into the deed, no opting out. The rulebook isn't the exception anymore. It's the factory setting for new American housing. By now you're thinking this sounds less like a neighborhood and more like a private government you pay to be ruled by. That's exactly what it is, and you stopped minding the day it started working for you instead of against you. Every family you keep out keeps the supply tight, and tight supply is just another word for your rising home value. The exclusion isn't a side effect. It's the return on your investment. The nod you chased at the bottom is something you hand out now, carefully, to people who cleared the same wall you did. Except there's a floor above this one, where the truly rich stop playing the membership game at all. They don't join the neighborhood. They buy the ground it stands on. One more jump. 9 figures, and the whole game turns inside out. You don't apply to a neighborhood at this level, you assemble one. At the bottom, you couldn't afford the lot. Up here you buy the acreage the lots would sit on, and then you decide whether there will be any lots at all. Look at what happened on the island of Kauai. One tech billionaire quietly bought more than 2,300 acres through a stack of companies with Hawaiian names, so the paperwork never obviously pointed back to him. A few local families still owned small ancestral parcels inside that land, plots handed down for generations. So his side went to court to force those owners to sell at public auction, a maneuver his own lawyers filed under the name Quiet Title. After the backlash, he dropped the suits and instead offered some of those neighbors well above the market rate to leave on their own. Sit with the shape of that for a second. At the bottom, a covenant you never signed decided you couldn't get in. At the top, you're the one writing the covenant, and the neighbors are just a problem you're paying to remove. And you don't even need an island to do it. A developer buys raw land and writes the rulebook before a single family shows up. Every rule that boxed you in at the bottom, the lot size, the square footage, the approved shade of beige, gets set on day one from a spreadsheet. He is the 1926 town, incorporated, deciding who your neighbors will be before any of them have packed a box. And none of this is a scandal, a loophole, or a crime. It's the ordinary, legal, celebrated way American neighborhoods get built, which is exactly why almost nobody thinks to point at it. You've stopped living inside the wall. You've become the person who draws it. It was always about who gets to be near you and what that nearness costs. The only thing that ever moved was the pen. At the bottom, it was pressed against you. At the top, it's in your hand. So go back to that first driveway, the box in your arms, the couch in the truck, the neighbor on the porch who wouldn't wave. You spent years thinking that moment was about you. It never was. He wasn't judging your furniture. He was standing on a wall drawn in 1926, reinforced in 1948, and repriced every year by the school your kids can or can't attend. Now picture the you that made it all the way up. Different porch, better street, and a moving truck pulling in across the way. Someone's carrying a box up a driveway, glancing over at you, waiting for a nod. And you feel it, the small pull to look away, to keep the wall exactly where it stands, because now it's holding your side up. That's the whole machine, start to finish. It was never your neighbors deciding who you were. It was a line on a map, deciding who your neighbors would be. And the second you could afford to, you reached for the same pen.